2015 Preview U Liquid Motion Cutting. So I am really excited about the liquid motion cutting. These two styles of haircuts actually are super essential in salons this day and age. So we have one haircut that is a wonderful graduated to layered haircut with a triangular shape. To the secondary is the very awesome disconnected pixie cut. Both of these haircuts utilize different tools, scissors and carving combs, from one another. So it gives us super simplicity with cutting hair. So we have these two different styles. We cut daily, but a fun, efficient way of cutting them that most stylists don't know about. So as I was starting to use these techniques behind the chair, I realized that cross-checking every single time I was exactly on spot, on key with things. So the main thing that you always have to think about as a stylist is utilizing proper partings, envisioning where our end result needs to be, and actually executing that to the fullest. The great thing with working with John Paul Mitchell's system is we have stunning stylists who create simplicity and excellence with our partings and with our cuttings, and gives us the amazing tools that we actually need to be able to execute these properly. Ever since I brought in both of these techniques into the salon, I've actually performed works of magic utilizing the tools that Paul Mitchell has given me to be able to cut haircuts more accurately and follow through to get the end results that I'm looking for. So today what we're going to be doing is the two haircuts, and I'm going to walk you through right now as we're speaking in this intro about the pro tools that were absolutely necessary for us to be able to create them. So one of my doll heads today, I already have her pre-parted off for her haircut. The way that I actually like to do my clients is not make everyone look consistently. I do 2 guests at a time, so usually 2 people to 3 people are staring at each other knowing that they're one of my guests. So I use different Paul Mitchell Pro tools to be able to set them aside so that all my guests don't look exactly the same while maybe possibly doing the same exact haircut, just adding a little bit of different swagger at the end. So this guest is actually using our chopsticks. Our chopsticks are antimicrobial, which allows us to be able to not have additional product or bacteria that forms on them. They're super fun, look totally different, look exactly like chopsticks, but the only thing is that we got our Paul Mitchell logo written on them. They're a great way of parting off the hair and giving our guests a different experience than normal Pro Tool clips. Secondary, my other guest who's sitting here actually got all 3. So we have a chopstick holding off the top quadrant of the hair. Off of the front, I decided to actually use the duckbill Paul Mitchell Pro clips. They still have the same antimicrobial coating on them. They're just friction-free and they open and close. On the back section, since our hair is already pretty short and we're planning on taking it shorter, I use the Pro clips that actually open and expand to lock hair into place. So with Paul Mitchell, we actually have 3 amazing clips that give us 3 awesome end results and make each one of our individual guests look a little different. So my tools today to be able to actually create these amazing haircuts are the Donald Scott carving comb. So the cool thing with the carving comb is most stylists use a straight razor or whatever razor. We have our comb put into our straight razors. So it makes it so that you don't have to worry about shoving one underneath your thumb while holding the other. So the top part of the carving comb is our standard razor. So it actually just has normal teeth in it. You can use it for whatever that you choose to use it for, just like a standard feather razor. The other side actually gives us the opportunity to be able to texturize. So with texturizing, with combing in or combing under, gives us a little bit of bulk reduction, creating all of our styles. The cool thing is this top part pops on out. You can take your razors out and completely throw them away, sanitize them in our normal feather razor case. But it's a wonderful tool that we can use that we can either get standard cutting, weight reduction, and bulk removal, and having our comb all in one. After that, we also too have our Paul Mitchell scissors. So this one is our 5.0 standard scissor. The great thing with Paul Mitchell scissors are they have ergonomic design. So that actually helps keep us have proper arm and hand alignment to help make sure that we don't have any arthritis or carpal tunnel issues with cutting hair. They're made out of Japanese premium cobalt steel that gives us an accurate and precision cut every single time. So out of all the years of me being a stylist, these are by far the best scissors I've ever used. We also have our Paul Mitchell texturizing shears. The cool thing is they're reversible. The great thing with reversible shears is we can use these to our advantage. when you're cutting guest hair and they have a strong cowlick line in the back end of it, where the hair grows up out and cups on down, we can actually use reversible shears to our knowledge. So we can actually take teeth in, cutting in, and that forces hair to push forward and move and live towards the face line. If we cut scissors out, that actually pushes it back and lets the hair live and flip out behind. A lot of scissors and a lot of companies forget to make them reversible so we can use them to our benefit versus having too many Pro Tools behind the chair. So I'm actually really excited today to give you guys the liquid motion hair cutting techniques. I love them for the fact is it's style, elegance, and beauty mixed in with phenomenal color. So I hope that you guys really enjoy my 2 haircuts that I have set aside for you. One being a fun disconnected pixie created by Takashi. And then secondary is a fun triangular shape graduated and layered bob with a disconnected front fringe created by Julian. So I hope you guys enjoy so far, and thank you guys so much. So we're going to start today with the Kamiya haircut. So I'm going to walk you guys through all the parting so that you can understand how we're able to achieve this pixie-like style with the best results. So we started on the parietal ridge area, coming back through and following it over to a V shape on one side and cruising back through another. This is going to create us a large parting section in the center. This parting section is going to be divided this way and that way, creating 3 separate partings, but we haven't gotten to that point so far. So over the ears, from the apex of the one parting, diagonal forward, up over the ears one section. Same on the other, kind of cruises back a little bit further. This is where we're getting our disconnection is going back from the further the apex of the head to the front area. Then from there, we're down the center of the head. We're going to part this on off. So what that's going to do is that's going to give us 4 initial quadrums to start cutting with, and that we're going to walk through. And then from there. So now with cutting the sides, what we're going to do is we're going to start off to the left-hand side. So body positioning is pretty important. What you need to do is you need to pull everything directly towards your chest. That'll give you general alignment. So we're thinking definitely pixie haircut. So we're going to go about an inch away from the head using our Donald Scott carving comb and actually the cutting side of it. And we're going to cruise through using even tension, and we're going to drop that down, cutting that hair off. From there, we have a moving guide going diagonally forward to the front part of the head. So then we take our next section, we comb up, we pull, finding the guide, but yet still moving forward as we're keeping even tension and even length all the way to the front. Once we find our guide, we're going to go back through and cut those areas right on off. Now that we've gotten this front fringe actually cut, they're all even. We got a little bit of hair to play with right here, and that's fine because the great thing with most of Takashi's haircuts is that we actually work on the final fringe work when the hair is actually done, styled, and being dried. So now we're going to mix over to the back left quadrant of the hair. So the best way for us to be able to create connecting this front section with this back section is turn around and doing diagonal back slices and using the initial guideline that was set in stone from this front fringe area. So you lift the hair on out, you find your initial guide, and you cut on down. So see how that leaves that fun little fringe? Then from there, you continue proper body alignment. So that's moving over diagonally back, taking our next section off, always standing where we can pull the hair directly out towards us. We lift that next section up, find that initial guide, and we cut that on down. So what we're going to do is through this back quadrant is we're going to continue to find that line all the way to the back. Now that we've gotten the front section connected with the back section, we're done with the left-hand side. So we're going to move over to the right-hand side, and we're going to still follow the same exact dynamics. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the hair out, taking sections that you can actually control, pulling towards you, and actually cutting that off about 1.5 to 1 inch out. Now that we've gotten back to the last back section of the head, we're going to follow the same exact patterns that we did from the last side, finding our guide point from the section previous and cruising on down. So predominantly what we're using is we're using every quadrant that we created to set the guide point and the lines for the next section. And we're actually using a moving guide throughout the whole entire back area to create us a very consistent pixie-like haircut. Just a very fast, efficient, easy way of doing it that actually leaves us without having to worry about cross-checking and making sure all of our parting sizes are awesome. So we'll continue to kind of cruise back through to meet our middle section, and then from there we'll talk about the top area. So now that we've gotten through cutting these sides perfectly, what we did is we actually took that triangular shape off the top crown area and put it into 3 quadrants. So we kind of follow along the sides of her head. So we have one that branches off, goes back to the lowest point, center section a little bit thicker, smaller section over to the left-hand side. So now that we've gotten all those sections set in stone, what we are predominantly going to do is take smaller subsections from that section and leaving hair over off to the left-hand side and pulling over smaller sections, taking that forward, all the way back to where the shortest point is and over directing it to create that length, setting the razor on top and chiseling that section until it actually cuts all the hair through it. So what we're doing is we're over directing hair back and away from the face to be able to give us our disconnected shape in the front. Next section, pop it on over, and then we will find our initial guideline from that and cut that. So then what you'll see is that the fact of is when you kind of lift this back section up, it kind of definitely blends and plays with it. Now you can kind of go back through and cross-check it with your Paul Mitchell scissors and make sure that nothing's really left behind. But if you kind of look at that, that's pretty much spot on perfect. So we'll leave the center section over here, flip that on off, and we'll go back over to this side. So predominantly what we're going to do is we're going to follow through to this one section exactly the same as we did to the other, knowing though that since this section was sitting closer to that parietal ridge, this section is going to be our shortest section. So our guest's hair is going to eventually live going from the left-hand side of her head over to the right with shorter side fringe, cruising on over with this disconnected section. So you're going to stand directly behind, lift on over, and you're going to find out that it doesn't cruise back nearly as far as the other section. Razor on through, remove that off. Another section, pull back through, same exact thing. So then you're going to realize when you are done doing that, see that concave shape that with taking these pieces and over directing it, how it innately wraps and rounds around the guest's face shape. So what you're going to do with your razors is just check it and follow that line all the way back through. So you're going to leave those pieces to this longer section back over here. So to tackle that top section, we grab our comb and our scissors, and pretty much what we're doing is we're leaving this center section as the piece that kind of flops around and actually gives us that great line of disconnection. We're going to part that into, let that one side sit there, flip this one on up. We're going to divide that into 2 sections, leaving this longer piece in the front laid down. And we are going to stand over to the one side, pull directly on up, and we're going to find that guideline that's dropping off the back. So we're going to be over directing it towards the longer pieces. Cutting on up. Creating it so when it falls down, it's going to give us a longer piece that sits living over that back section. But yet also too, in theory, makes sense on where it's going to be living at. So we'll take the next section, lifting it directly 90 degrees up from the hairline, proper alignment, cutting those pieces on off, taking this final sectioning, pulling one forward, taking the back, finding our additional guidelines, and as you can see, it's sitting right there, and cutting those off. Okay, so now that we have this done, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to soften these lines. So we'll go back to the Donald Scott carving comb, and then we will be taking partings through that section that we just cut and cruising that back on over towards our guidelines in the back, and just softening and just making sure that those lines aren't so harsh. So now that that top section's been cut in, you're going to see longer pieces that are going to live and drop over this back quadrant, depending on which way that you flip it on over. So there they are right there. And then you're going to have pieces that are going to kind of want to fall forward and give her a heavy side fringe with this beautiful Takashi noted hook in the front. So before we actually go to blow dry, we're going to take our carving comb and kind of just go through and make sure that everything blends from this left hand side, cruising on over to give her a side fringe. So now what we'll go back through is we'll put some product on her and start blow drying her, and then we'll finish off all the finishing touches up around the sides of her hair, texturize this hairline to soften this line on up, and give it a little bit more movement, a little bit more texture, and more body. That our haircut has been completely dry, what we're going to do is we're going to go through finishing results. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through and just slide cut around her face to add a little bit more jaggedness and a little bit more texture to it and bulk reduction. Combing things forward, looking for stuff like that. Then up over her ears, actually using our comb to hold the hair out, to cut it to the desired length that we felt like that would look best on our guest's face shape. So we've done that one side. We'll go back on over, clip the other side on up, do similar. fun thing with Takashi haircuts is that you do predominantly the bulk of all of your hair cutting when wet, and then when dry, you go back through and you add that little bit of spice and texture that's noted for the bulk of all of his haircuts. So now that we've gotten the sides to match, the bangs definitely on the one side has gone through and looks a whole lot thinner, a whole lot piecier, a lot more disheveled, which is a typical noted concept for Takashi. His hands move so quickly, and the works of art that he actually accomplished with those is just wonderful. So now that we've gotten back down to the base of her neck, we're going to start realizing that her hair didn't really grow super awesome naturally. This one side definitely lays in a little bit better. So we're going to kind of grow through, and we're going to just glide our scissors through the hair to remove some of that bulk of that neckline area. And when you felt like that left that back area just soft enough, you're going to go through kind of similar, comb the hair down, and just point cut off the unnecessary lengths around the ears and on the back sides of the neck. So now that that has been done, we're going to move to Takashi's noted awesome hair cutting technique. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be over directing all of these layers, these back ones included, to our shorter side. The great thing with Takashi is the way that he cuts is that when he goes in with open shears and actually flicks hair out and actually cuts hair, but only a small amount of hair while he's doing it, to create a softer end result to every single area. So we're going to take back on over, drag on out. We're going to find that guide point line, and we're going to go in and cut. Perfect. Checking to see if this side is even, going on it through. And we are done. So disconnected pixie, shorter to the one side fringe, dropping on over to this longer disconnected section over here. This side's all exposed with amazing sexy short fringe. This side kind of covers it up with this amazing 3 layers that we put on in from over directing and graduation over to the backhand side. And enough hair to make our guest look like from the side profile that she's still got plenty to party. So I would have to say overall a pretty amazing disconnected pixie bob, which is great parting lines, a good direction, and amazing techniques created by Takashi. So I hope you guys enjoyed my Camilla haircut. I hope you guys enjoyed the end result. Thanks so much. Hey guys, it's Miranda again. So we're here actually going to be finishing off our Evan haircut, which is the second part of our liquid motions cutting. So this haircut was created by Julian, and what it's going to be is an actual graduation to layered triangular shaped bob with a nice heavy disconnection in that crown area. So we already walked through the first set of partings in the first beginning of the video before we started the Camilla haircut, but we'll kind of go back through. So we have a partial teardrop parting in the top section that actually bridges over a little off center over to the left hand side. From there, we have gotten our diagonal forward parting, starting back at the division line, going to the forward, and then a similar one coming over from the other side. And since we've actually made the parting off center to the left hand side, it's going to create the right hand side to have a little bit more density over that one angle. We made a parting directly down the very center towards the back so that we can actually start setting in that triangular shape in the back. So I will face this way while we're cutting so that you guys can understand. So our first section is going to be diagonal forward to the guest face. We're going to come down using 0 elevation so that we kind of get a good hairline. We're going to drop this down, creating a shorter to longer, going from interior to exterior cut. And we're going to blank cut as we're leaving this line. So see how we got like a nice little drop down too? So you're always going to want to make your guests lean their head down, comb down, and try to find any of those scragglers and clean those on up on the very bottom line. Our next sectioning is going to be following, mimicking the last one. So good clean partings are actually key for every part of this haircut. And since my fingers will not be able to hold it, we'll break this one up into 2. So since the first one we actually had 0 elevation so that we can get all the underneath hairs cut on out, the next one's going to just be slightly up. We're going to find our original guideline living underneath there, and we're going to blank cut on that. So next subsectioning, pulling out, lifting this up, pulling directly out, finding that guideline, cutting off the difference. So predominantly what we're doing is we're using graduation by keeping it under the 89 degrees in the back so that it creates a nice strong C-shaped curvature to the back part of the hairline. As we're getting closer to the top part, rounding over in this section, we're going to start elevating it closer to the 90-degree angle. Now that we're going to be moving to the front section of the head, we'll have the guest head up a little bit higher, and we're going to continue to follow those diagonal forward sectioning. Now the only difference is now we're going to be over directing that first section all the way back to the back section and trying to lift up above the 90-degree angle so we can actually maintain and save weight within the hairline. Alrighty, so now that we've gotten done cutting our left-hand side of the doll, we're going to follow through pretty much primarily using the same exact partings in the same exact direction. So we're going to stand directly behind on this next one. We're going to go down and we're going to look for that guideline. So if you guys can see that guideline there. On the left-hand side, we cut from, of course, right to left. On the opposite side of the head shape, we're going to cut from right to left also too, kind of going uphill versus on the other side going down. So that's set in stone. Get her looking straight up. Finding our original guides from side to side, making sure that they match up evenly. And since they do, we'll continue to drop down these partings using diagonal forward slicing and completing through to the front part of the head shape. So now that we've gotten both sides of our bob completed, we're going to move into our teardrop section. So the way that we're going to do this is, since this guy's been off-centered, our center section is actually going to start off-center going back from the top part of the head. So we're technically going to break this teardrop section into initially 3 sections to start off our main guide. So what we'll do is we'll zoom in on this top section so that you guys can understand and get the fact of this being off center, but yet the very center of this teardrop section. So starts at the lowest part back here, cruising to off center in the front of her face shape. So once we've gotten this established, we'll break it into 2 smaller subsections. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stand behind the head shape, and we're going to find that shortest piece out of that back section area. We're going to lift directly straight up out of that. We've completed the haircut. What we're going to do is move on to the styling part of it. So we're going to use, out of the Awapui Wild Ginger brand, the Hydro Mist Blowout Spray. This is going to offer us a style amplifier with a weightless hold. So super great for all of our guests that are looking for a frizz-free, volumized spray out of the Awapui Wild Ginger. So what we went through is we graciously misted the guest's entire head, and we're going to go through and we're going to flat wrap her hair. With flat wrapping, what we're doing is we're prepping for the next step of her blowout. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our 413 brush, which is one of our classic, well-known brushes. It's a wonderful smaller paddle brush. It's got a great squishy memory in the base of it. Has wonderful little bristles with little silicone beads on those. Those beads allow us to be able to brush through the guest's hair without snarling, pulling, or stressing the hair on out. So with flat wrapping, predominantly what we're doing is we're using a truck and trailer, moving through the guest's hair just to remove as much moisture as possible. Because when you go into round brush, the last thing that we need to do is sit there for hours and hours and hours round brushing and twisting to be able to get that moisture on out. So we're going to remove part of it and allow our Express Ion Round Brush XL to do its job. The blow dryer that we're choosing to use today is our Neuro Motion. The cool thing with the Neuro Motion is it's got a touch activated sensor on it that allows the dryer to turn itself on and off. It has the same exact wonderful 1875 watt DC motor, hosts the same exact 2-year warranty, and has the same 4 heat settings and the 4 speed settings with the self-locking cold shock. So once we got the flat wrapping complete, we're going to go through with the Express Ion XL. This thing is amazing. It's got the Express Ion technology fused into it using 32 volcanic minerals. The great thing that Paul Mitchell does that a lot of other companies don't do with their round brushes is each individual one of our bristles actually are corkscrewed. The corkscrew allows us to dig into our guest's hair, help lock it into place, and pull it out to give us a more even, straight blow dry. And also helps too, as we're doing our blow dry, we can hold it into place and even let it go, and it sits in the guest's hair so it can cool in the same state that it does. So once we're done round brushing our guest's hair, we're going to be round brushing both of these heading into the back. In this upper crown section, we're going to roll these forward, lock them in, and actually once we're done round brushing, we're going to cool them very similar to a pin curl or to a Velcro roller by having them go on under, and clipped in with one of our Paul Mitchell Pro clips sitting on the base of it. What that is allowing to do is give it maximum volume, allowing it to cool in that maximum volume. So she's gonna have a really nice soft motion heading forward and a good volume off of that crown area. So I'll go through and set her in stone. We'll get a couple of videos of the very end and then see how we were able to create this amazing haircut. Thanks guys so much. Now that I've completed the Camia and the Evan haircut, I hope that you guys enjoyed the short tutorials, and I hope that you also just enjoyed me working through all the different products that we use in the different Pro Tools. So my one main call to action for the conclusion of my classes is just kind of taking in different options of ways of cutting and styling hair, trying to get a little bit more creative behind the chair, making each one of our guests look a little bit different from one to another. And then also too, I hope that you enjoyed the fact that Paul Mitchell's got so many amazing different Pro Tools, from scissors to carving combs to chopsticks, that you guys can start bringing in all these new, clever, and inventive ways into your salon so that you guys can all start becoming a little bit more successful and standing out above the crowd. The one thing I've learned with working with John Paul Mitchell Systems is being a stylist is we want to brand ourselves. And with branding ourselves, we actually create a niche marketing within our community that no other stylist can actually obtain. So I hope that all of you guys go back into your guys' salons, find out what branding works for you, utilize some of the cool tools and techniques, and I hope you guys enjoyed all my short tutorials, and the best to you guys in your lives. So thank you so much on behalf of John Paul Mitchell Systems and Cosmo Beauty Supply. Peace, love, and happiness.